Three, two, one. Welcome. Hey, it's your host. It's Yadita Span. You are now tuned into Unapologetically Purple. So thank you for tuning in. And how are you today? I mean, honestly, how are you and all that's going on? I hope you're doing well. I hope you're keeping your head up. I hope you're looking for better days ahead. I hope you're not giving up. Don't give up. Keep on going. So today, as you understand on my very, very real podcast, you're going to hear real sounds, real noise, real life happening. And that actually is a blessing. And so it's not going to be perfect, but I'm definitely going to get the message out. Okay. So recently I had a phone call and a text which concerned me. The text, as a matter of fact, I believe it was about 2 days ago. And in the text, someone said to me, and I'm sure they don't mind me sharing, I'm not going to give their name, but said to me, I am basically feeling a bit nervous because I have a coworker who has seizures, and I'm the only one who's here with them today. This is not someone who I speak to on a regular basis, but people sometimes will reach out to me when it comes to things like seizures, epilepsy, things that they have friends or relatives or different things like that who are going through certain things. And so I got the text, and of course, I had to look at this in a certain way. And so what I'm going to do today is I'm going to talk about this fear and this concern that people have for the unknown when it comes to a medical condition, specifically when it comes to seizure disorder and epilepsy, which I feel is a lot different than if they would have said, I'm with someone who has a heart condition. I'm with someone who has asthma. I mean, the person can have an asthma attack at any time. A person's heart, arrhythmia and different things like that, they can, experience discomfort or what have you, or a person with high blood pressure, right? And we're not here to lift up illness, right? But as you know, so some of you don't know me, I am a woman of faith. And so what does that mean? And don't stop listening because of that. It just means that I trust God when I can't depend on myself to fix things. I trust Him. I give it to Him when things start to seem like it's just too much. And even when they don't, I still trust Him. So I wonder about this when I think about epilepsy in the world today. I wonder about how this particular illness, people are more fearful, I believe, than if it was a person who may have had the big C, right? Or anything else. That epilepsy somehow frightens some people. Is it because of the way that it presents? I really want us to think about this today. Is it because of the movies that people have watched? And I'm going to say this. The movies, cinema, they don't do the best job sometimes of showing what epilepsy really is, or even what a seizure looks like. I mean, sometimes they just don't. I also know for a fact that to some, epilepsy is a joke. I couldn't believe that there was a social media, there's more than one, even TikTok recently had people who were doing like a seizure challenge. I'm baffled. That's why the long pause. I'm baffled that someone would take time out of their schedule to belittle, to poke fun at, to ostracize a whole community of people who have this medical condition, this medical disorder that they have to take medicine for, or, sometimes it's a particular diet when you can get to that point that can help out. But this is a medical condition that has taken lives. It has taken lives, and so maybe they're just not human. Maybe they're robotic. I don't know. I don't think robots have hearts. I don't. I could be wrong. I don't think they have feelings. So maybe that's the reason. Maybe they're not human. Maybe that's how we need to look at certain things when people are being judgmental and are not showing empathy or compassion. Instead of us getting bent out of shape, maybe we need to just say, you know what? In this world that we live in, they are making robots, and so maybe these are actually robots. And people don't know it, so they're following along and they're putting up their TikTok videos, not knowing that they just got duped. Because, how could somebody put up something like that? There was another platform where people were, what was that one about? Let me try to remember. I don't know if it had to do with pizza and ordering a seizure pizza. It was the strangest thing. Very weird. Very strange. That people actually, and I'm sure there are other things out there if I stop to look. However, I'm not looking right now. It's not that important to me. It's just a little, it's not even really concerning. I just said, that's pretty sad. That's pretty sad. So, to think that people will take time out of their schedule, and this can't be a person who has epilepsy who's starting this stuff. Now listen, and I understand sometimes people who have epilepsy and seizures, they will make jokes, right? Joking, not in a bad light, but in a different light, are laughter. Not to make someone feel bad, but it's kind of like me. Like, I think I'm a little corny, and I think that when I tell jokes, I laugh. I think they're funny. They're dry, and people will look sometimes at me like, the reason why we're laughing is because that joke was so dry and corny, and you're laughing, and they're usually about me. I try not to do jokes about people. My jokes are usually about me. So I'm humorous. But yeah. So these are people who don't understand, who put this stuff up. Honestly, I think so that people with epilepsy can see it and have their feelings hurt. And so my thing is, don't look at that stuff. That, like I said, they're probably robots, so I don't want you to be alarmed. How about that? Maybe we need to look at that in a lot of cases when people just offend you for no reason and things. Say, maybe they became a robot overnight. Who knows? Okay. So with that thought in mind, so I get that text, right? Let's look at the text first. And I need to respond to it. But I think I'm going to send them, say, hey, I put the podcast up. Go and listen. Because I guess I could understand where their concern was coming from. Because, like I said, epilepsy is no joke. But I don't want people to be like, I'm scared. I want you to be more helpful. and I know, who am I to tell a person who doesn't know what it is how to feel? But I think it should come from a place of concern more than from a place of fear. I'm concerned that this person has epilepsy and I'm not sure what to do. Can you tell me what to do just in case? Can you give me some helpful tidbits? Sure, I can. Love to. That's what we're here for. We're here to help. But I think hearing I'm scared. And listen, us parents, if you're a caregiver or if you are someone with epilepsy, you know you're concerned too sometimes, right? Concerned that your child might have a seizure in their bedroom if they're not sleeping with you, and you don't hear them or you don't know, and so you go and you get these devices like the Sammy device or the what's the other one? Is it the M Watch? You can tell I didn't get one yet because she's usually with me, but you get these things, a seizure dog. So because for some reason these dogs, they know, they can sense it, they can smell something in the air when a person is about to have a seizure. And so yes, there's a concern. But it's the whole thing about the fear that I want us to try to move away from, because the fear is what they always say, false evidence appearing real. It's the what if factor. What if, right? And sometimes those what ifs, thank God, never come to pass. But it's important that we don't worry ourselves into a frenzy for something that hopefully may never happen. To be concerned, to be prepared, that's two different things. And I think we should operate from that space more, because the fear can kind of put you in a space where you feel helpless and paralyzed, and we can't have that. We cannot feel helpless and paralyzed. We can be proactive. We can pay attention to it. We can try to help. So I'm going to talk about that for those of you who don't know what to do. I want you to know what to do so that you can feel empowered. And here's the truth. It's just like with anything. It's one thing to read it and another thing to experience it. And I always like to say that for people who read books. What did someone say? Oh, someone said to me the other day, they were asking me some questions, and I was saying, well, yeah, I had to make some life choices, right? Because our lives changed when we had to shift, we had to pivot when she received her diagnosis, and when I, as a mom, had to make some, I call them tough decisions as a solo mom. But I did it anyway. And it's been humbling and what have you, but I needed to be available for my child. And so people from the outside in oftentimes will look and have so many, criticisms or unhelpful suggestions, or they have the book knowledge and they'll say, oh, that's just epilepsy. Oh, you mean just epilepsy? There's no such thing as, quote unquote, just epilepsy. I really understand more and more this whole COVID, whatever this is, situation, and the conversations that I've had with people, some who I haven't seen, haven't had to speak to in quite some time. These conversations have made me want to scratch my head in utter disbelief and say, really? I've had people who were just downright cruel, to others who just really didn't understand. And it was almost like, just epilepsy. And I said to them, because I understand certain people are in the medical field, but once again, like I said to them, to experience it is totally different from just reading about it or hearing about it. Experiencing it gives it a completely different, oh my gosh, it's just, it adds a whole new spin to it. To see it in the movies, I think that sometimes they downplay epilepsy in the movies. I look at this young man, Cameron Boyce, epilepsy warrior who lost his life to SUDEP. What is that? Someone saying sudden, unexpected death in epilepsy patients. A lot of us parents didn't even hear about it, and I didn't hear about it from our medical person. I actually started doing research when my daughter was diagnosed, and I saw something called SUDEP, and I was like, what is that? And when I looked, I know my eyes opened wide to know that people could transition from epilepsy, and that's why, yes, it's important for people to do what they need to do as far as diet, as far as exercise, as far as taking their meds, as far as finding alternative ways to combat this thing. And of course, prayer. For those of you who don't like to hear that, I can't apologize. That is what has helped me as a caregiver to keep my mind intact, because no one wants to see their child suffer, and there's not much you feel you can do or not much you can at the moment. And so, yeah. So for all those who really believe that epilepsy is no big deal and you're giving your family a hard time, please don't. They don't need that. I'm sure they're sleep deprived, because you check on your loved one. You want to know if they're still breathing at night. That's what happens to some people. The oxygen level goes down and yeah, they just don't breathe. And this is not to cause fear. It's to advocate, to let people know. People with epilepsy are not monsters. They're not demons. They're human beings with a medical condition that they are praying for a cure for, hoping for a cure. And so, yes, you should know what to do. You should. That was one text, and then I got a call from someone who I went on my Facebook page and was just thanking God that my daughter hadn't had a seizure in over a year. That for us, a week for some people, 2 days for some people is something to applaud and shout about. There are some people who have had their driver's license taken away from them because seizures, they just come when they want to. They don't ask for permission. They just come. Sometimes they are triggers, they are outside elements. I think that people need to pay attention who make children's movies and be mindful. And if you won't think about not putting all those flashing lights, which are a trigger for people with epilepsy, some people who are has photosensitivity and different things, it's the high flicker rate. So if you say, well, we need this, we've got to have this in this movie, then please, please, please put up some type of some caution, some stipulation. May affect trigger. Is a trigger, may affect epilepsy or people with seizures. Like, put it there in the beginning, before the movie starts. Put it somewhere so that when people start looking for movies to take their children to or to go to themselves, that they can think twice about going. Because they know that it may trigger a seizure, and they can have the best information. It doesn't take much for you to do that. Please do that. So then I got another call, and I went on my page and I said this, and someone who I hadn't spoken to a long time ago their daughter actually reached out to me on Facebook. Hey, call mine. I was like, alrighty, I sure will. And when I called, she told me of a woman who she knew whose daughter has epilepsy and some other conditions that, she was diagnosed with, that she's going through this. And she was saying how the mom, feels like a bit frustrated too, because her daughter, she wants to get through to her daughter, and it can be fearful sometimes for a child, and if you feel like you don't have the support that you need, or you feel like there is no support out there, you kind of go through this thing by yourself trying to figure it out. Well, that's why I'm here. Did I even say who I am? Oh my gosh. My name's Yadita Span. And I am an epilepsy and special needs mom advocate. And I enjoy doing what I do to help people understand what other people go through and how we can help, how you can help. And if helping is just not ridiculing and ostracizing, if that's all you can do, thank you very much, unless you're a robot. And you can't help yourself, because the robots can't help themselves. So, and y'all know I'm kidding, right? But I'm kidding and I'm not. People have to have more empathy than they do. So this is what this mom is going through. And so I began to speak to this mom about some of the research that I had done. And I know, like, if your plate is already full and now your child has epilepsy and now you've got to do research, it can be tiring, right? I worked at a job where I worked like from 9 to or 8:30 till about, 6:30. Yeah. I know this is tough what we're going through, but for some of you, I'm glad that you have this time now with your children, with your child, because I know it's difficult to work when they're at school and you're kind of like, are they okay? You can feel them. I could feel my daughter. I mean, we were attached to the umbilical cord, so I'm sure I could, I could feel when she wasn't okay, and I'd be like, I need to call the school. And when I did, sure enough, Miss Span, we were out on a trip, and the heat, like your daughter, that was another trigger for her, the summer, the heat. And so a lot of times, instead of being able to go on trips, this is what some of the epilepsy parents go through, their child would have to stay behind so that they could stay, in a room that was air conditioned. Or what if the school, we went through a time when the school's air conditioner wasn't working. It was a charter school, and it was like, okay, like she can't be in all of that heat. It's hard enough for us to be in too much heat. So I'm speaking to this mom, and I started to think of different things because her daughter also had some sensory challenges as well. And so one of the things, of course, I'm thinking about two things. I'm thinking about the parent. I'm thinking about the fact she's probably sleep deprived. And sleep deprivation, it kind of takes away from you, it makes you like you're not your best when you're sleep deprived. Honestly, you're not. And you wonder why do I feel so short-tempered? Why do I feel I know this is my baby, this is my child. Why do I feel so frustrated? It's because you're probably sleep deprived. And just because you're a caregiver doesn't mean that you don't experience the symptoms of compassion fatigue. It doesn't mean that you don't. You're compassionate, you love them, but yet you're dag-nabbit, you're tired. And if you're a solo mom, a solo parent, and my word for mom is M-O-M, is mom on the move, right? It's not solo mom, you're lazy. Solo mom, you're none of those things that some people think about us. God have mercy upon their souls, right? But you're tired. And your temper, your fuse becomes short when you're sleep deprived, when you're wondering if your child is okay, when you're sleeping next to them and every little jerk, every little kick, you're looking at them and you're moving them a little bit to make sure that they're okay. I mean, that's when you don't have a seizure dog, right? Because the dog probably senses that seizure and does a couple of things. It shields them from banging their head on the floor. You know, it kind of lays on them. It does a couple of things. And so you become a seizure monitor, a living human seizure monitor sometimes. And so sometimes you feel guilty about being frustrated. And I don't want you to feel guilty. I want to realize that your lack of sleep is affecting your body. It's affecting your mental capacity. You may be at the point where you're like, I don't know. I can't remember. Why can't I remember this? Because you're super tired. That's a part of it. And for some people, that's all that it is. You're just exhausted. Your brain it's not operating at its optimum level when you're getting like 4 hours of sleep. How can it? So don't be hard on yourself with that. Find ways to do something with that frustration that you're feeling. What can you do? Put your headphones on, because you can see your child with your headphones on. Put your headphones on. I listen to inspirational music, motivational talks, the Bible. Let it play in your ears, right? Read it out loud. Do something nice for yourself. Because who cares for the caregiver? I think people forget that when they're being mean and callous. Yeah. And if you're doing it by yourself, even if you're in a house full of people, but yet they're not helping, you still feel very alone. And it's amazing to me that sometimes people don't believe that you just need a walk. You need to, but they're afraid. I went through that. People just afraid and callous at the same time for no reason. And I don't think these were robots. These were human beings who just didn't understand. But you've got to do something for yourself. And I don't know if, even if the places that had the help, there was a company, organization called Danny Did. Danny Did, DANNYDID. I think it's .org or .com. At this point, with everything that's happened with the pandemic, I don't even know if they still have the resources. But that company was put in place for a little boy who, he's no longer, I'm pretty sure, if I remember, he's not with us any longer, but he was a beautiful, bright little boy, bubbly little boy. And they created the company so that people who weren't able to afford some of these seizure monitors or different things like that, they would help pay for them or pay for them completely. So look it up. I need to check that out. And that's what I'll put on my website also. I need to make a note to myself. To put those resources on the website for you. The resource page is coming. The website is yeditaspan.com. But I'll put it on there. I'll also add some of the things that I spoke to this mom about, because she was saying that her daughter was not sleeping through the night. Now, when my daughter started to have the seizures, right, the epilepsy, she was always up at night anyway. I don't know, some children, they're up at night. I think they think they're going to miss something. But, the doctor said she also ended up with insomnia because of the epilepsy and the way that her brain the brain waves and the brain activity would kind of pick up. And then I think also for her, because she was having them in her sleep. I mean, who wants to go to sleep if you wait, when you wake up, you're coming out of a seizure and all you have time to say is mommy? Who wants to go through that? And then you don't remember anything else except for waking up with people standing over you, EMS and different things like that. Who wants that? I wouldn't want that. And so I tried as best as I could to hold her in my arms so that she felt safe. And I still do, and she's 11 years old. And it's amazing to me that people will fault you because you want your child to feel safe. That's amazing that they'll say, oh, you're codependent. I had someone, oh, you're codependent. No, you don't understand our experience, and you're making little of it because you didn't go through it. How dare you judge someone for what they're going through? May God have mercy upon your soul. You're not a robot. And so I take her and I would hold her in my arms for a couple of reasons. First of all, because she wanted to be held. And there's nothing wrong with holding your child. Do not let this world, I don't know why the world thinks that they need to tell you or me how to raise our child when they've never experienced what we've experienced. That's a lot of nerve. And so she felt safe in her mother's arms, once again, because she explained to me what it felt like for her to have a seizure, that she felt like she was running in darkness and darkness was chasing after her. And she couldn't even hear me calling her. While she's having a seizure, I'm like, baby, I'm right here. Honey, I'm right here. And I would, rub my hand on her back or her arm, like, baby, I'm right here. Mommy's here. Don't worry. I'm not leaving you. I'm right here. The only thing was that she would tell me, Mommy, I could not hear you. And the only thing, sometimes when you're in a seizure, because the brain is spiking and it's not, how can I put it? Like, everything is not happening the way that it's supposed to. So a normal touch when a person's having a seizure could feel like something totally different. And so there was a period of time when she would say, it's this, like, she would feel this feeling. And she would hear like this garble sound. And there was a thing, like, she used to be screaming. There's this, what do they call this? It's a seizure. Anyway, it's like a scream. It's literally a scream. When she first started having seizures, oh my gosh, it was like this sound. But it wasn't a scream because she couldn't open up her mouth to scream. So it was somewhere inside of her, this sound that I would hear that was so heartbreaking. But that's because in her mind, she was screaming. And after a while, when she would have a seizure, that sound wasn't there. But there were other sounds. Other sounds that the person who's watching them have this seizure would hear. Sounds that would sadden you and just about break your heart. So I would hold her. One, so that she would feel safe. The other, so that I could feel, and I'm a light sleeper, but so that I could feel her movements. Just in case there was something I needed to do, since her seizures happen in her sleep. And also not, the absent seizures were not in her sleep. That would happen in the school setting where she would just look like she was daydreaming and the teacher didn't get it, regretfully. But how could she? She didn't have a child who had seizures. And so I would lay there next to her so I could feel when she would kick. And yes, there were times when she would, and I would have to jump up or run and get the emergency medicine or watch her or time the seizure. And seizures are like this. They say you should administer that emergency medicine at least up to 5 minutes, and, some do it at 3. But 5 seconds seems like a very long time. And so we'd have the emergency medicine. And, it was the thing about helping her to be safe. And so I said to this mom, do you have a weighted blanket? Because there were some sensory things too. When this happens, this child oftentimes feels like they're out in the open space, in a big open world, and they want to feel protected. That's the reason why they have the sensory vests. Because out in the world, we were in New York City. There's so much going on there, so much animation, so much lights, camera, action, and, a lot of heightened sensitivity there. And so sometimes for a child, even in New York, we're in a space where strangers are up rubbing against you on a train, and, you're pushed in. That, even though you're like in the midst of all of these people, and it's not like it's a wide open space, it's still very uncomfortable because they're in your space, in your personal space. And so that too can make a child feel uncomfortable. So they have weighted vests so that child can feel some weight on their body, almost like you embracing or hugging them, but it's a vest instead. So they can feel like, I feel like I'm sheltered. Like I'm enclosed. I'm not out here in the wide open space. And a weighted blanket, so when they go to sleep, they can feel some pressure, some light pressure on their body that makes them feel safer than if they didn't have it. And so I remember the first night, I'll never forget it. I did a couple of things in her bedroom. I changed her paint color. What color did we have? I felt like we had a purple color in her room. And I went, and it was the shade of purple because she liked purple, pink and purple. So her room was pink and purple. And I was doing some research, and I said, okay. And I asked her, I said, honey, what if we change the color of paint in your room? And she was all for it. We were going to do like a Nordic theme with seashells and all of these wonderful things. And so we did that. We changed the paint color to like a blue, like a greenish blue. Did that, put some LED, the nice pretty bulbs to decorate with, and changed her room. Changed her comforter, her pillows. I got her a non-suffocating pillow. Have you ever heard of that? It's a pillow because sometimes, regretfully, the reason why some people have succumbed or transitioned because of epilepsy was because when they were having the seizure, they may have ended up face down on their pillow and they suffocated. And if it's, someone who did, my deepest, deepest sympathy to you. My deepest condolences. We will continue to advocate on your behalf, the behalf of your loved one. And so, I got her a non-suffocating pillow. It's like mesh a little bit. So even if, she's asleep and maybe I step out of the room or something and she's having a seizure and she rolls over on her, her face, that she will still be able to breathe because of the holes that are in that particular pillow. Got the weighted blanket, the non-suffocating pillow, the little LED lights were in there. And I ordered something that I didn't get. I ordered what was it? Oh, I did order it, but at the time it just didn't work. It was a sensory, it was like a jellyfish inside of, you put water inside of it. Excuse me, and it's like a little jellyfish. And they love to see things like this. Most children do. It didn't work though, so I'm not going to shout the company out. I actually reached out to them and they were very apologetic and decided, they're going to send us something else. I'll tell you how that works. after we use it. And I can go on my page and do some video and show you all some of these things. And so anyway, let me tell you something. The first night that she went to sleep with that pillow, and I was like, come on, baby, just lay down, sweetie, and got her to lay down. And first of all, because her room was different, the color change, even with the paint, I believe helped out. And she went to sleep just like that. She was out. I put that blanket on her, and it's funny because they have a commercial, like you throw the blanket on the person and they just fall out, like they just fall asleep. It was like that for her. She just fell asleep. Now, did it happen like that all the time? No, but the times that it did, I was so grateful for that. So happy to see her resting. It just put the biggest smile on my face, and that was a blessing to me as well, because then I was able to stay up, know that she was resting, and then I was able to focus on some of the other things that I needed to do without feeling like she didn't feel like I wasn't, I was doing this, mommy's doing, or whatever. So I told the mom about that. I told her about that. What else did I talk to her about? What else? Definitely told her to go on the Epilepsy Foundation's page. They have a lot of information there. And to be involved in some of these groups that are on Facebook, the Caregivers of Children with Epilepsy group. Or there's a lot of groups on there. And what you do is you try it. And if it becomes too heavy, you step back. Because it is heavy. It is heavy to see parents, who are, on there early in the morning, all throughout the day. People who have celebrations that their children have not had a seizure in a very long time. And then those who have to come on and say, well, now we have to start all over again because they didn't have one for a year or years. And now all of a sudden this thing is back again. And we get to encourage each other because we get it. And it's a good thing to know that someone understands what you're going through after you're just hearing some people who are just unkind and who don't get it and who think it's okay for them to voice their opinion or act very nonchalant about something that they don't understand. I don't care if you do have a medical degree. If you're not showing compassion and empathy, you're a medical doctor and you're not showing compassion and empathy, then maybe you need to go back because something happened along the way. I'm sure in the beginning you were like, oh, I want to be a doctor. I want to help. For some people it was about the money. That's fine. But a lot of doctors want to help. And sometimes I think there's this tolerance that gets built up because they see so much. Don't lose your empathy. We need it. So then that was that. So I'll put some of this stuff on the website. Once again, editaspan.com. It's a hub. The resource page will go up. I'm super excited about that. I'll be working on that. And it's a place for encouragement. I am also a faith and motivation coach as well. I'm an author. I have my book up there called Don't Give Up. If you want to get a copy, you should. It will encourage you. All right. It's about pieces of my life, things that I've come through by the grace of God. It's to let you know you're not alone. You cannot give up. You have to keep going. I actually went on my Facebook page last night and I did a challenge about my book where I talked about it. And I also had, something else where I was speaking to people just don't give up. Don't give up. We need you to make it. We need you to keep going. We need you to find the answers that may not be so readily available. And we need you to know you're not alone. I'm looking at my face in the mirror. I feel like I look different after so much of this stuff. But guess what? I'm here and you're here because you're listening to me. So that's something to celebrate. So you keep going. Now, for this piece, what does that person need to do? If this person that you know has a tonic-clonic, grand mal, anything like that, one of the most important things for you to do, first of all, is to make sure, let's say that they have the seizure, they fall to the ground, or if they're sitting up and they're having the seizure, you want to make sure that you get anything away from them that can harm them or that can hurt them. If it's a table, if it's something that has a blunt, a sharp edge, get those things away from the end of it, move it. If they're sitting up and they start to have the seizure, the thing is that they're going to fall to the side if it's not like an absence seizure. Absence seizure, the person can sit straight up. And they can have multiple absence seizures where they're in and out of them. Just don't be alarmed. Try your best to breathe, right? You don't panic, right? You don't run. Someone said on the page the other day that their son was out and had a seizure, and the neighbor ran to go get this parent. And they said there were other neighbors. They said as they were coming to their son, they could hear their son's head hitting the pavement. Bam, 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 bam. And no one was helping. Nobody. They just were standing watching. Were they in shock? Maybe. But if his head is hitting the pavement, run and get something. I know if it's summertime or whatever, but try to grab something to put underneath their head. If it's a jacket, I don't care what, something to soften that blow. Do that. Put them on their side. Do not restrain them. Do not try to hold them and try to restrict their movement, because you can actually cause them to be hurt in the process. So once again, let's go back over this. If they're having a tonic-clonic, a grand mal, not necessarily an absence seizure. The absence, they may sit up straight, but they will not respond to you when you call their name. Just, here's the piece for that. Just don't get like real close up in their face. Like real close. Don't do that. Because when they come out of it, they're just going to see your nose right up in front of their eyeballs. Like, are you all right? Just back up a little bit. Just a little. Just back up. And I know I'm trying to add a little joke into it, because I know my daughter would say that her teacher would just be looking at her mean, though, like she wasn't paying attention. It wasn't that she couldn't help it. So yeah, it startles them. Just calmly from a distance. Keep, if you know their name, call their name. If you don't know their name, encourage them until they come out. Are you okay? I'm here. Are you okay? Just keep saying it until they come out of it and they can focus and look at you. Okay? Now, if it's a grand mal tonic-clonic, they were sitting up or now they're down on the ground. Once again, you're going to put them on their side. Okay? The reason why I want you to put them on their side, and when we in the epilepsy community want you to put them on their side, is because we don't want them to asphyxiate, right? So they, may have eaten. And if they're on their back, whatever it is may come back up and then go back down and come. We don't want that. At least if you put them on their side, sometimes there's increased saliva excretions that happen, mucus excretion. And I'm talking to you, right, because I can, right? Come on, this is not freaking you out. And if it is, come on, pull it together. We need your help, all right? You'll be okay. Pat yourself on the back. Put them on their side so that at least if there's anything in their mouth, it can just come out. It'll drool out of their mouth or what have you. If they've eaten, it can come out because they're on their side as opposed to on their back. And don't be afraid to do that. You got to move them. You got to put them on their side or their back. You can look up videos on how to do this. Okay, and I'll put something up too. Once again, cushion their head if you can. There are times when I've had to use my hand just so that it will lessen the blow, the palm of my hand to lessen the blow, like right underneath the head. What else can I tell you? Try to time it. If, of course, you're a caregiver, you're going to give that emergency medicine. But if you're kind of like a coworker or a stranger, you might not know about the emergency medicine or anything like that. And so you want to time it. Or if you're, hey, you might just go ahead and call 911, right? Some people say after 5 minutes, but let's say you don't know if this is the first seizure that the person is having. Then you go ahead and you get 911 on the phone. Ask them to walk you through it. And so I'm trying to think what else. You don't hold them. Oh, please, you don't put anything in their mouths. Do not put a spoon in their mouth. You could break their teeth, because sometimes people with epilepsy or who they're having a seizure, they will clench. Tonic-clonic, it's a clench and a release, right? So you'll see the body, it almost seems like they're jerking like that. So you don't want to put anything in their mouth because, like, you could hurt them. And yes, some people may bite, they say they don't bite their tongue. They may bite the inside of their jaw or something like that. They won't swallow their tongue. They might bite their tongue. This is true. But the thing is, just to be there, be present with them. Be present with them. Breathe. If it's happening, just breathe. Even if you're talking to yourself, oh my gosh, I can't believe this is happening. Just keep breathing, please. Be mindful of your own breath so you don't pass out. We don't need you to do that. And just look at it like this. I'm here. I'm going to help. I'm here to help this person. I'm here to help them. Just like you would want to help somebody who's having a heart attack. Just like you would want to help somebody who, chokes on their food. You want to know what to do. You want to know what to do so you can be a help. And you would want someone to help you too. All right? So I would recommend, I'll get this stuff up. I'll get these resources up on the page. Matter of fact, maybe I'll devote a page to epilepsy. Maybe I'll do that. I think I will. I think I'll do that because it's that important. I can do that. And so go on to, I believe it's epilepsy.org. They have a lot of resources there. And share and talk about it. Share and talk about it. For those who have epilepsy, caregivers and young people, find your supportive community. Whether it's online, most stuff is nowadays. Find it. Don't go through this by yourself. For those of you who are concerned you have friends with epilepsy, you should try to learn about it. That's what a friendship is about. My daughter had a friend, and I remember it was just the cutest thing. They were doing some homeschooling, and, she said she wrote this book, which she's got a book. We just have to get the copies done and all of that. And, he said, what's your book about? And she said, oh, it's about epilepsy. And he looked at her and he said, well, what's that? And, she began to tell him what it was. Talk about it to your friends. And those who don't get it, it's different from don't getting it and not wanting to get it. They don't want to get it and they seem callous. Maybe you should move them to the associate category. If they're being mean, move them to a different category. Do not try to be around people who want to hurt you on purpose, who want to belittle you and ridicule you on purpose. Find someone else. Have supportive people around you because you need it. And so he said to her, well, I didn't know you had epilepsy. You don't look like it. And, I let him know, yes, a lot of people who have epilepsy, you cannot tell because it's neurological. It has to do with the brain. It gets me when people say, I think there's a rapper, what's his name? I think it's Lil Wayne. And someone said in the comments, yeah, he looks like he has epilepsy. What's that mean? I'm like, what are you talking about? Some people have secondary diagnoses, which actually present differently. But most people that have epilepsy, Danny Glover, you wouldn't know. Knowing a lot of people didn't know Cameron Boyce had epilepsy. There's not a look. It's not a look. A person who has an asthma attack, right? They don't look like they have asthma. What's that mean? What's that mean? A person with a heart condition. They don't look like they have a heart condition. Let's stop that. It doesn't make sense. Anyway, I'm going to go now. But thank you for tuning in. And listen, I'm not trying to make it fun of anyone who has said that, right? I'm just saying there's usually not a look. It's not. So don't beat yourself up about that if you didn't know and all of that. It's not a look. It just happens, okay? All right, well, you've been listening to Unapologetically Purple. There are a lot of things we need to be unapologetic about. Number one, being diagnosed with an illness, going through it, being a caregiver, trying to do the best that you can. Be unapologetic. It's not a fault. It's an experience and a reality that can change. Keep advocating. Keep supporting. And like I say on my other podcast, which is Pep Talk with Yadida, whatever you do, don't give up.